Don Mancini, I thought you learned your lesson. So, Cult of Chucky tells the story of Nika, the survivor of Curse of Chucky, stuck in a mental ward while numerous Chucky dolls start attacking her as well as the other mental patients, and all the while Andy Barclay, our hero from the first 3 movies, is coming to this mental ward to stop Chucky once and for all. That plot synopsis is way better than this movie actually turned out to be. Alright guys, so we're here. Just like Leatherface, I was leading up to October and thinking that the Cult of Chucky movie was going to drop sometime then, but again, Christmas came early, or maybe Halloween came early, and Cult of Chucky dropped right in the middle of September, so I'm going to talk about it right in the middle of my review series. Fuck it, let's talk about it. So after Curse of Chucky kind of revitalized this franchise, brought it to VOD, and actually found its footing on VOD, surprisingly enough, and I was really looking forward to what they were going to do with the story that they built in Curse of Chucky. The lore that they built, the new storylines they were going after, especially with the post-credit scenes, with Andy Barclay coming back, with Tiffany coming back, and like, where are they going to take this? There are so many directions they could go, and this movie is the answer to that question. They had taken it even farther than they did in Curse of Chucky. They took it even farther into the weird, the crazy, and honestly, I'm not a fan of it. I feel like this is going to be a really divisive movie. There's going to be some people that's going to look at this and they're going to think this is such a refreshing take. It's going to be so different and unique amongst the franchise that they love it or they like it or they really appreciate the directions that they went to kind of break up the monotony of the setup of Child's Play and the setup of the Bride movies. But I got to be honest with you guys, it goes so far into the weird and the different and the strange. To me, this is like a much less egregious version, albeit, but kind of the direction that he went with Seed of Chucky and taking it in directions that I didn't want to see this franchise go. But with that being said, there are some positives about Cult of Chucky, so let's talk about them. First and foremost, the tone of Curse of Chucky for the most part transfers over into this movie. It is a much more serious movie than Seed was. It's still kind of trying to get back to that grounded feel that the original movie had, where Chucky is this kind of unstoppable force that only our protagonist knows is the killer, but everybody else won't believe her, and it's this kind of this struggle to get everybody to understand that this fucking doll is after everybody, and if you don't widen your eyes and figure out what the fuck is going on, we're all gonna die.
Imagine.
And being a fan of those original films, I always appreciate elements of the story that goes back to that calls back to that keeps the style of those original films and that mystery of who Chucky is going to take out next, because at the end of the day, these are slasher movies and they need to remain slasher movies. Fiona Dourif is back once again, and she is yet again the strongest part of this movie. She's actually a pretty damn good actress, which surprises me a lot, especially surprised me in Curse of Chucky, because when you think, oh, Brad Dourif is just going to bring his daughter in to play a role in this movie, you automatically just start rolling your eyes and go, oh god, this is going to be a throwaway actress. But she's actually pretty damn good, and she's even better in this movie in my mind because she has a lot less competition in this movie, which I'm going to get into in a little bit, but she does really well. Her character has an interesting emotional journey that she goes on throughout this movie with the aftermath of the events of Curse of Chucky, and she conveys all of that really well. So good for you, Fiona Dourif. You're still a pretty damn good addition to this franchise.
I don't blame you for being afraid. I was very ill.
Chucky told me.
I actually thought the design of the good guy doll in Chucky was much better in this movie than it was in Curse of Chucky, which is one of the biggest things that annoyed me about that movie, was that the doll just looks so off. He looks much closer to the original design in this one. I'm actually going to give some serious kudos to the kills in this movie because they're among some of the goriest and the most macabre kills that Chucky has done in this entire franchise. Not quite as effective as some of the kills in the first couple of movies, especially for dark comedy, but in this movie, if you're a gore hound, the gore is here. Chucky is mutilating people left and right, and they are going for broke with gore and shock value. And my last positive for this movie, that's right, my last positive, is that they do something in the opening of this movie between Andy Barclay and Chucky that was one of my favorite moments of this entire franchise. As a longtime Chucky fan, the opening of this movie was so kick-ass to me, and unfortunately it didn't quite deliver on its promise, and that was probably the biggest excitement and the peak of my excitement for this movie was that first 15 minutes or so. But the opening of this movie, totally kick-ass. Unfortunately, the rest of the movie to me was kind of a steady decline. I gotta be honest, I did not like this movie near as much as I thought I was going to. At the end of the day, I'm extremely disappointed. Now, I'm going to try my best to not go into any spoilers whatsoever when discussing my issues with this movie, because a lot of this movie is surrounded in mystery and some of the directions that they go. If you are not a hardcore Child's Play fan and you do not have the knowledge of the entire franchise leading up to this movie, I don't see anybody that does not have that knowledge enjoying this, because basically the entire plot, the entire understanding of what the hell is going on in this movie lies heavily on your knowledge of the rest of this franchise. And if you don't know what went on in Chucky 1 through Curse of Chucky, you're gonna be lost. Which makes this the least accessible movie in this entire franchise, even over Seed of Chucky, which I don't think anybody should subject themselves to, but you could watch Seed of Chucky without watching any other Chucky movie and still understand what's going on in that movie. If you've never seen a Child's Play movie and you try to watch Cult of Chucky, you're never gonna get into this franchise, I guarantee it. So basically the storyline and the direction that they go on in this movie, which is not too much of a spoiler because they hint at it all the way through the trailer, is that Chucky has somehow found a way to now possess multiple good guy doll bodies. He found some new chant in the Dumbledore fucking dictionary to where now he says a new chant and now he can possess multiple dolls at the same time.
Wait a minute, there's two of them?
And while some will look at that and say that's a really unique, fresh direction to take this franchise, I look at it as a longtime Child's Play fan and I call bullshit and say that that is totally cheap, easy writing that just kind of shoehorns this new direction into this movie that does not make sense at all within the context and the lore of this franchise. Suddenly Chucky has the ability to do that, then why the fuck hasn't he done it before? Why didn't he figure that out years ago? Chucky has been killing people for almost 30 years, and suddenly out of the blue he figures out that he can possess multiple bodies. That would have made this franchise end after the first one, because Chucky would have won and took over the fucking earth. Which is a product of my biggest negative of Cult of Chucky, which is just bad, lazy writing. Don Mancini has written every single film in this franchise, and I'm sorry, I know the dude is the patriarch of the Child's Play franchise and the creator of Chucky, the doll that we all know and love. The dude is starting to run out of steam, and it shows. And honestly, I've come to the realization that I do not like Don Mancini directing these movies. He made his first choice to direct in Seed of Chucky, which we all know is a giant fucking mistake. And then he brought back everything with Curse of Chucky, which a lot of people really appreciate, and it is a really good movie, but which I'll get into more in my review. His direction is one of the things that kind of brings it down for me a little bit. And now you have this movie where, again, I feel like he just tries to go too far into the weird and the strange like he did with the Seed of Chucky. So I just don't want him to touch these movies anymore. Get somebody to write them and get somebody to direct them. Carry on this franchise, but Don Mancini, take a back seat for a while. And one of the reasons why I say that is because for the first time, I feel like they really fucked up the writing for the dialogue of Chucky. Chucky had maybe 2 good lines in this entire movie, and that is one of the reasons why we watch the Child's Play movies, is to see what kind of outlandish, hilarious shit is gonna come out of Chucky's mouth with the voice of Brad Dourif. And I'm sorry, his writing and his dialogue was just bad in this. It's not clever. It's not really all that exciting. It gives you belly laughs maybe twice in the movie, maybe 3 times, but there's nothing that's iconic and so memorable like some of his lines from the first 4 movies. Not even close.
Night night. And they call me sick?
Which is just a huge fucking sword in my heart as a Chucky fan and a Child's Play fan, that I'm actually going to say that Chucky is a negative in this movie, because he is the main attraction and you slipped and you lost your footing in writing dialogue for him. That should have been step 1. Let's write Chucky's dialogue and then we'll write a movie around it, because let's be honest, that's probably the most important piece to a Child's Play movie, is that while he's killing everybody, Chucky needs to be iconic and needs to be the Chucky that we know and love, and to me, this was a watered down Chucky. But lucky for Chucky, there's plenty of that shit to go around, because the writing for pretty much everybody's dialogue in this movie was pretty bad. Most of all, in Tiffany. Oh, Tiffany. Why in God's green earth were you so bad in this movie?
A true classic never goes out of style.
Jennifer Tilly, I loved so much in Bride of Chucky for everything that she brought to that role. And even in pieces of Seed of Chucky, she still had that spark and that charisma and that life that she brought to Bride of Chucky. But I'm sorry, the Jennifer Tilly and the Tiffany that we get in Cult of Chucky, looks like she flew in on a weekend where she had way better things to do for a couple of $100,000 just to do Don Mancini a favor, because her line delivery in this, especially when she's trying to kind of throw back lines from previous movies for comedic value, they fall completely on their face. I was so disappointed and so upset that Jennifer Tilly was so bad in this movie. But honestly, the one character that I was hoping the most for, the person that I thought was hopefully going to bring something to this chapter, that he was finally going to come back and reclaim his glory, was Andy Barclay, played by Alex Vincent. This is the first time that Alex Vincent has taken the lead role in a Child's Play movie since 1991, and he is terrible.
I was 6. My babysitter was murdered.
And they never caught him?
Justice was done.
Wanna play?
Now don't get me wrong, I wasn't expecting any Oscar-worthy performances from a guy who hasn't done anything noteworthy since 1991, but I was at least expecting some drive and some passion that he was going to bring back to this role. And this dude is so wooden. They could have gotten anybody off the street to do a better job conveying a character that is out for vengeance like somebody in Andy Barclay's shoes would be, than what Alex Vincent brought to this. And aside from that, everything that his character does outside of that badass opening scene is cringeworthy to me, because I'm just like, dude, you are making Andy Barclay look like such a dumbass in this script, because every single plan and thing that he does in this movie, you're like, how the fuck is that supposed to work? And every single time he does it, when you're thinking, maybe they're gonna pull the rug out from under me and have some kind of surprise, something that Andy was kind of planning that none of us could figure out. No, by the end of the movie, he was just a dumbass, because everything that he did not help the situation at all, especially for his character. And that's honestly because when he was writing this movie, you can tell, especially by the end of it, that this was only meant to be a stepping stone movie. This is a movie that is supposed to follow something just to lead to something else. It's like one of the seasons of The Walking Dead, where Curse of Chucky was trying to bring the fans back and bring everything back to being grounded and to get everybody's taste of Seed of Chucky out of their mouths. This movie is only concerned with setting up whatever's to come, in my opinion, which I'm very, very disinterested in after the disappointment that this movie was. They even go as far to have yet another big cameo at the end of this movie in a post-credit scene, but honestly, this one just feels like throwing in a familiar face for the sake of throwing in a familiar face for the fans. It's not like the Andy Barclay scene in the last one where it was this huge surprise, holy shit, Alex Vincent is actually back. You see this one and you're kind of like, yeah, of course they were gonna do that. I feel like I'm kind of ranting, guys, but I just gotta be honest. This is my passion as a Child's Play fan coming out here, because I had expectations up to here for this movie. I thought this was going to just be the movie that takes this to the next level. After Curse was so good and we have gotten so far away from the taste of Seed, the fact that this movie was so lazily written and so strange and was off the wall weird, that once again just goes back to the mistakes that they made in Seed of Chucky. It just blows my mind that Don Mancini, once again, you have not learned your lesson apparently, and you have stomped your foot on the head of this fucking franchise yet again. So with all that being said, guys, it pains me down to my core to say this, but I cannot recommend that you see Cult of Chucky. This falls just below my ability to recommend it. There's things that I thought they did pretty well, but there is so many more things that pissed me off and disappointed me, that the direction that they took this movie, the direction they took the story, and the writing by Don Mancini, not only for the direction and the story, but for Chucky himself, was so egregious to me that can't recommend it. Can't do it. Can't do it. So if you're a fan of the Child's Play franchise, just stick to one of the other movies that I've recommended. Just go ahead and skip this one for now. Maybe they'll pull their head out of their ass with the next movie, but until then, skip it. That was rough. That was rough, Chucky. That was rough. So what do you guys think about Cult of Chucky? Are you a fan of this movie? Are you a fan of the new directions that they took and the writing of this movie? Or do you feel like me and it honestly upsets you that you have to talk about it the way that I'm talking about it now? Put all of your thoughts on Cult of Chucky and what you think this franchise is going to do from here on out down in the comment section below, guys, and we'll talk about it. Please like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. If you want to check out some of my social media links, you've got Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter down below. You can check those out, as well as my Patreon page, which is a great way to support this channel and a great way to get exclusive content for your eyes only if you decide to become a patron. And I greatly appreciate everybody that considers becoming a patron, but if not, totally cool. Just enjoy the videos. And if you want to enjoy some more of my videos, you can enjoy some more by clicking right over here.